for being here, everyone online. Thank you for listening in. So, we got a really good idea of just how meticulous God was when He was creating all things last week. Just so you know, we're skipping some chapters because they have even more of that stuff talking about the moon's movements and the wind and where it comes from and all the things it does. You're going to get a small taste of that, but it actually flows into another piece. So, what are we starting at? 79, right? 79?
Yes.
I want to say it's 79. Yes. So 79, so I think we ended at 76 last week, so 77, 78. Oh, okay. No thanks.
You can go and read it yourself
Yes.
if you would like to know.
Go ahead and read them yourself, but they are just mechanical in nature, right? Just very, and this is where the wind comes from, and there's this many portals for the wind, and anyway, you get the point, right? So we're going to get past that, and it'll be a little bit interesting tonight, though. There's some stuff to grab onto here, starting at 79. So with that, let's go ahead and go to the Lord in prayer. We'll jump in. Heavenly Father, we thank you for showing us all the interesting things, the way that you have set everything up, and helping us to understand how we got to where we're at now. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so 79, starting at verse 1. In those days Uriel answered and said to me, Behold, I have showed thee all things, O Enoch. And all things have I revealed to thee. Thou seest the sun, the moon, and those which conduct the stars of heaven, which cause all their operations, seasons, and arrivals to return. In the days of sinners the years shall be shortened. Their seed shall be backward in their prolific soil, and everything done on earth shall be subverted and disappear in its season. The rain shall be restrained, and heaven shall stand still. In those days the fruits of the earth shall be late, and not flourish in their season, and in their season the fruits of the trees shall be withholden. Okay. Interesting, right? So there's a time when like everything's going to be distorted and it'll be out of place. This is all pre-flood, right? So there's, I think, a couple things to look at here. One, what did the earth look like prior to? So a lot of these descriptions, think about, okay, some of these things obviously are going to be set up the same way, but then there's going to be some things that are a little bit different after the flood happens. And then, if you look in Revelation, and what are we talking about? Well, some of the stars fall from heaven. And there's both, like, the thoughts of, are we talking about the angels, or are we talking about actual stars? It's probably a little bit of both, in all honesty. It might be one of those overlapping dual meanings of what's occurring in the physical is happening in the spiritual as well. So, with that said, just keep that in mind. Like some of these things that are changing at the end time, right? The sun will be darkened and the moon will turn to blood, and like there's changes talked about in our Bible that happen not just on the earth, but also with these celestial bodies, right? So, verse 6, the moon shall change its laws and not be seen at its proper period. But in those days shall heaven be seen, and barrenness shall take place in the borders of the great chariots in the west. Heaven shall shine more than when illuminated by the orders of light. While many chiefs among the stars of authority shall err, perverting their ways and works. Those shall not appear in their season who command them, and all the classes of the stars shall be shut up against sinners. We just got a little hint. We got a little piece of a hint. It says, basically, the angels that are in charge of these stars and their movements are going to no longer be doing their jobs appropriately. Thus, what was supposed to be happening with these celestial bodies keeping their proper order, it says they're going to fall away and not be doing what they're supposed to be doing and keeping things in order as God commanded them to. Interesting, right? 8. The thoughts of those who dwell on earth shall transgress within them, and they shall be perverted in all their ways. They shall transgress and think themselves gods, while evil shall be multiplied among them, and punishment shall come upon them, so that all of them shall be destroyed. So, we got two possibilities of where all this stuff fits. Most of this stuff fits. Why was the earth destroyed in the first place? Well, some of those angels fell, came down during Noah's time, started multiplying on the earth, doing the things that they weren't supposed to do. But also Revelation talks about the stars falling out of heaven, right? So there's the end time and then there's the end time. Or the end of the age, and the end of the age is actually how I should properly say this. Noah's flood was the end of that age. It was the end of the age of, like, the Adam, right? The man. In his original state and form and the length of his years were about 1,000, you know. Minus a few. I don't think anybody actually lived to 1,000. Who was it? Methuselah. 963, I think is how old he was. But, towards the end, we see similarities between what happened with them in the end of their age and what is going to happen at the end of ours. So, let's keep going. All of them being destroyed, right? There's that overarching, generalized statement. You're going to see that a lot in the Bible, right? We see it all over the place. There's these overgeneralized statements. Does that mean every single person is destroyed? No, it means those who don't belong to God are destroyed. There is a remnant, right? So, Enoch 80. He said, O Enoch, look on the book which heaven has gradually dropped down, and reading that which is written in it. Understand every part of it. Then I looked on all which was written, and understood all, reading the book and everything written in it, all the works of man, and of all the children of flesh upon earth during the generations of the world. Immediately after I blessed the Lord, the King of glory, and has thus forever formed the whole workmanship of the world. And I glorified the Lord on account of his long-suffering and blessing towards the children of the world. God didn't want them ignorant. Y'all ever see? Is this ringing any bells for anybody? Seem like a similar story that you've heard before? God handed Enoch the book. Read it. Absorb it. Understand it. Here's all the knowledge you want, Enoch. So, what story does that sound like? It sounds a whole lot like Prometheus. Prometheus was given knowledge by who? It was one of the gods, right? I'm trying to remember his name. However, he was punished by the head god. Oh, there's the twist, right? So, I want to say, who was it? Or was Prometheus the one that, yeah, it was Prometheus was the one who brought the knowledge to man. Excuse me. That was not the name of the man. Prometheus was the god who brought knowledge to man, right? So, this is like the small twisting of the story of what really happened. God gave Enoch the most knowledge out of anybody. Like, he fed him with everything, and it's the same story though. Like Prometheus is handed the book of knowledge, right? Here you go, Prometheus. And then, well, it was fire. When he got taught about fire. Anywho, it's a similar story. Basically, God is giving knowledge to man. That's the basic principle that we got. However, here we see that God's like, no, I want you to understand. I want you to be able to use useful, good information. I want you to understand how the sun and the moon and the stars, so you can see how important all these things were and everything that I did, so that your creation was perfect. Why does God want his children to know that? I think it's just like any father wants his children to appreciate all the hard work he has put in to their life. Right? Here's all the things I have done so that your life could be good. What do you feel like when your kid can't even say thank you? I think this is a very fundamental understanding that we should all have, is that God wants to do all these things, but when we're ungrateful and we start complaining about the things that he's doing for us, such as existing, what are you so unhappy about? You know? So, who thus forever formed the whole workmanship of the world, and I glorified God, the Lord, on account of his long suffering. So God constantly listening and watching all of the ungrateful selfishness that is going on across the whole world. Enoch is going, thanks for understanding. Thank you for not destroying us immediately. Thank you for, giving us a minute to try and get it right. He's recognizing God as more than fair in all of this. So, okay, 6. At that time I said, blessed is the man who shall die righteous and good, against whom no catalog of crime has been committed, and with whom iniquity is not found. Then those 3 holy ones caused me to approach and placed me on the earth before the door of my house. And they said unto me, explain everything to Methuselah thy son, and inform all thy children that no flesh shall be justified before the Lord, for he is their creator. This is important. Enoch, take everything you've learned, start preaching. Teach your family, teach your children. I need you to teach all of your kids, right? Like, teach Methuselah, so he'll teach Lamech, and Lamech will teach Noah. So that way, we will spread the message of who God the Creator actually is, and nobody's going to have a misunderstanding, because I've given you all the information, and why I did these things the way that I did them, and why I've had to do everything that I've had to do. And then, when the flood comes, don't be mad at me. When the end of the age comes with Noah, and for those I am writing this book to, they understand. You got to do what you got to do, God. I understand why you got this way. You've dealt with us for thousands of years, and you've been patient. You gave us plenty of opportunity to get it right. However, we deserve this. That's the only thing anybody could ever end up saying. Whatever we end up getting from God, all we can say is, thank you. That's it. That's all we should say. Thank you for the opportunity. But, so now, here's this book. Here's this knowledge. Give all of it to your son. Let him understand all of this. Okay. So what does it say in our Bible? It says, my people perish from the lack of knowledge. That's important. A very important statement. Why? How did all of this start? Knowledge. Okay. And it's very important you understand what type of knowledge. It was specifically good and evil. Now you understand there is a difference between good and evil. The thoughts and intents of an action is what determines evil. It is not the action in and of itself that is evil. It is your thoughts and intents that drive them. So, that is where you come back to this conclusion of, okay, did they mean to do wrong when they first ate? No, not necessarily. But everything after that, I understand now. So now, my people perish because you know you're doing wrong. That is the big major understanding, is like everybody has this thing that ends up getting built in, is that you know you were wrong. So, everything, right? Explain everything to Methuselah and inform your children that no flesh shall be justified. I need everybody to understand how wrong they've been. And everybody to understand just how selfish and, misunderstood this whole thing has been. Because if they know, they know. If I give them the information, they have no excuse to reject me. This is the beginning of the head and heart problem. They didn't understand that it was actually their hearts that were the issue. So this is very, very interesting. Why? Everybody thinks it was the law. This is the first time God's really educating his people on this thing. Nope. He used Noah. He used Lamech. He used Methuselah. He used Enoch to preach to the world who their Creator was. So, verse 9. During 1 year we will leave thee with thy children until thou shalt again recover thy strength, that thou mayest instruct thy family, write these things, and explain them to all thy children. But in another year they shall take thee from the midst of them, and thy heart shall be strengthened. For the elect shall point out righteousness to the elect. The righteous with the righteous shall rejoice, congratulating each other. But sinners with sinners shall die. Separating some things. Hey, here's the plan. Enoch, he knew he was going. He had to make sure he trained his family, taught them everything that he learned. But this is very, very important that we understand. There's this chain of knowledge that went through his family, ended up with Noah. Noah's the one that got off the ark with his family, was training them. So why? So that no generations from this point forward have any excuse of why they have departed from God. You all know. Why? We sent this information through Noah. So think about this. Before Enoch started doing this, what was there from Adam to Enoch? No Abraham. Abraham's after the flood. There's no law. There's no knowledge. They didn't understand how bad they were, other than, right? Because God did not give them any type of standard, did not explain all these things to them. Who was supposed to do it? Who was supposed to explain all the things? The watchers were supposed to come down and start training us and teaching us and leading us back towards God. Well, what did they do instead? They fell with us. We drug them down in the mud. Think about the power that a human being actually has now. If you can make an angel fall, that is a pretty seductive thing that is happening. You see it? Like, oh man, they chose humanity over the known Creator. What? Why? Even them, when they came in the flesh, they were subjected to the corruption of this creation because of us. This is a very powerful action that happened in the garden. Very powerful. So powerful, they couldn't resist. I bet you anything. A lot of the angels stay in the spirit so they are not tempted by the flesh. Maybe some from time to time put it on and then they take it right back off. Ooh, I feel dirty now, right? Like, ooh. But, okay. So, let's see. So, 10. And the perverted with the perverted shall be drowned. Those likewise who act righteously shall die on account of the works of man, and shall be gathered together to account of the works of the wicked. The righteous are still going to die too. But the righteous will end up judging the wicked. That's given in a few places, right? So, in those days they finished conversing with me, and I returned to my fellow men, blessing the Lord of worlds. Did y'all hear that? No, plural. Interesting. Very interesting. By the way, there's a couple places I realize this. I want to tell everybody this. Everybody heard the flat earth arguments recently, yes? Everybody's kind of caught wind of them. I don't know if you know this, but they actually sent some of those people down to Antarctica this past week. And even they, why do they do Antarctica? Because supposedly, for them, this pertains, right? I promise these two things go together. They use this book a lot in order to say it's flat. Yes. However, I think they're leaving out a few key scriptures that we have. Here's one of them, right? Who, blessing the Lord of worlds, right? That's plural, more than one world. But also, it calls the planets orbs. The moon an orb. Well, it's not flat, that's circular. But anyway, this past week, just so you know, right, the thought was like the sun went around the world, and you know, you got a big ice wall. Well, that would mean you'd never see the sunset, or you would see the sunset in Antarctica, because the ice wall over here is way far away from where the sun is over here. But they went to Antarctica, South Pole. Guess what? They had 24 hours of sunlight. Which proves we're on a globe. We're on an orb. It's not flat. You can't get away from that now. So, I prefer this. Why? Worlds. It's a lot bigger than what the flat earthers have made it. It's much bigger. Creation is infinitely big. Why? It keeps getting bigger. They're trying to put a number on it, but not quite. So, anyway, I wanted to throw that at you because, breaking news, everybody. The world's not flat. Sorry. Anyway. Enoch 81:1. Now, my son Methuselah, all these things I speak unto thee, and write for thee. To thee I have revealed all, and have given thee books of everything. What? Really? You mean Methuselah had some books? And he's supposed to give this knowledge and this information to his children? And they must pass this down and pass this down? Oh, wait a minute. Where did all this come from? Oh, Enoch didn't write that. I 100% believe that people have thought, because they could only find, 300 or 400 years before Jesus. That's the oldest copy they could find of Enoch. Well, I'm sorry. I think we have a chain of custody that's going. Now, here's the bad part, right? Here's the part that you gotta realize and get past in your own mind is that you have something proving itself, right? Like there's nothing. I don't think we're gonna have something that is external to the book of Enoch that says, other than Jesus quoting it, right? Paul, I believe, has pulled some information from Enoch. So, I'll keep going. Verse 2, preserve, my son Methuselah, the books written by thy father, that thou mayest transmit them to future generations. Wisdom have I given to thee, to thy children and thy posterity, that they may transmit to their children for generations forever. This wisdom in their thoughts, and that those who comprehend it may not slumber, but hear with their ears, that they may learn this wisdom and be deemed worthy of eating this wholesome food. What's the food? The knowledge contained in the books, the Word of God. This is crazy. Now we've got like this real early understanding of you can survive on the Word of God alone. This is almost like the reference that Jesus is making goes all the way back to this, right? Okay. Blessed are all the righteous, blessed all who walk in the paths of righteousness, in whom no crime is found, as in sinners, when all their days are numbered. With respect to the progress of the sun in heaven, it enters and goes out of each gate for 30 days with the leaders of the 1,000 classes of the stars. Y'all hear that? The 1,000 different classes of stars. There's 1,000 different types of stars. And there's leaders of those stars. With 4 which are added and appertain to the 4 quarters of the year, which conduct them and accompany them at 4 periods. So, here's how I hear that. You got 1,000 different types of jobs. And these are the classes. Yeah. Here's the crazy part, right? We're going to get to it in a second. But the light that is shown has a physical effect on the world. So there's 4 quarters, right? Each of these quarters and the amount of time that is shown. Okay. What does this sound like? Now it starts to sound a little like astrology, right? I think astrology is a twisting of what is being said. These angels specifically do their part in certain times of the year, they have a job to do, and their job is more prevalent than these other ones. These other ones are maintaining, but these guys are up front and center doing what they're supposed to be doing. Does that make sense? Okay. So, respecting these men greatly err, and do not compute them in the computation of every age. For they greatly err respecting them, nor do men know accurately that they are in the computation of the year. But indeed, these are marked down forever, one in the first gate, one in the third, one in the fourth, and one in the sixth. So that the year is completed in 364 days. Men will err in what? Accounting for the time which is past. They're going to count it up wrong. They're not going to know what they're doing. Hold on a minute. Wait a second. Did y'all know that there is a timeline issue going all the way back to Egypt? And there's like 1,000 years. And it could either be here, or it could be 1,000 years further into the future. This period of history that was happening in ancient Egypt. And they can't quite figure out what it is. So their computation of the years might be off. They can't figure it out. They don't have enough evidence. So what is this telling you? They put things in books saying this is the truth. But the fact of the matter is, they're guessing. What do you call a guess in scientific terms? It's a hypothesis, right? So, what's an even fancier word for a hypothesis? It's a theory. It's a theory. Such as the theory of evolution. Except that theory is being spoken of as if this is 100% true. But you don't have 100% truth to it. You don't have all the facts, is all I'm saying. This is why I think it's Frank Turret wrote a book called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. He does not have enough faith to be an atheist because even for them, it still requires that little bit of faith. Because you don't know, you believe. You believe this to be true, but you don't know it's true. You don't have all the facts. You cannot know if you don't have all the facts. Okay. So, respecting these, men greatly err and do not compute them in the computation of every age. All right, we'll go on. Verse 8. Truly has been stated and accurately has been computed that which is marked down. For the luminaries, the months, the fixed periods, the years, and the days, Uriel has explained to me and communicated to me whom the Lord of all creation on my account commanded, according to the might of heaven and the power which it possesses, both by night and by day, to explain the laws of light to man, of the sun, moon, stars, and of all the powers of heaven, which are turned with their respective orbs. Turned. Okay? I just told us that we have an orb that is turning. Anyway. It also, I don't want you guys to not know how it all works. God's trying to explain it as best He can for a people that need to be educated. Here's how creation is working. Why did He put all this in here? Now I believe we have some sort of idea as to why they may have removed this book from the Bible. Another reason. Why? My people perish from lack of knowledge. If you're in charge of this world, and you want to pull people away from God, and you want to claim the new religion of science for yourself, and turn factual information and reinterpret it so that it draws people away from God. Interesting. So God gives all this information. This is pretty old stuff. Think about, even if it was just pre-Jesus, like 300-400 years before Jesus, who understands these things to this level? Not a lot of people. Alright, this is the ordinances of the stars which set in their places, in their seasons, in their periods, in their days, and in their months. These are the names of those who conduct them, who watch and enter in their seasons according to their ordinances, in their periods, in their months, in the times of their influence, and in their stations. Okay, everybody in here's got personality, right? Has anybody in here ever had a key leader in their organization leave and be replaced by a new leader? When that happens, stuff changes inherently to the leadership which is put in charge. Shift changes. You have day shift, mids, nights, right? Does the atmosphere change when the leadership changes? I promise you that is 100% true. Depending on who's in charge and the time that they're in charge. Hey, I'm watching over this station and I've been placed over top of the earth for this time. There's going to be, as it says in here, an influence. This is where you take astrology and get it all crazy and wacky. They're misinterpreting a little bit of the information. It's not the way that they think it works, right? They're thinking it's just mystical. If you're born at this time, you will be this way. No, not necessarily. 11. 4 conductors of them first enter, who separate the 4 quarters of the year. After these, 12 conductors of their classes, who separate the months and the year into 364 days. With the leaders of the 1,000, who distinguish between the days, as well as between the 4 additional ones, which as conductors divide the 4 quarters of the year. They have a symphony that they are playing in the stars. You will see these stars for this quarter and these stars for this quarter. To include, they must abide by the rules that are happening with the sun and the moon, and they must coordinate all these things so everything continues to move in the way that God directed them to. They're maintaining the order of the universe. These are angels we're talking about. This is fascinating. Believe it or not, there's a theory out there that some people have that the stars are actually angels. I think that goes along with the flat earth stuff, but I don't know. It's odd. However, what we do know is they're being directed in their order, and somebody has been placed in charge to maintain the order. Okay. That also goes along with who is Jesus rebuking when he's telling the storms to quit. If there have been angels put in charge of the 4 winds, right, where all the winds come from, is he rebuking his father, or is he rebuking an angel that's acting up and not doing what they're supposed to with the job that they were given? Okay. These leaders of the thousands are in the midst of the conductors, and the conductors are added each behind his station, and their Conductors make the separation. These are the names of the conductors who separate the 4 quarters of the year, who are appointed over them. Melkel, Helamelech, Melial, and Narel. And the names of those who conduct them are Adnarel, usual, we'll say, and Yelumiel. Oh man, these are rough. Okay. These are the 3 who follow after the conductors of the classes of stars, each following after the 3 conductors of the classes, which themselves follow after those conductors of the stations who divide the 4 quarters of the year. There's a hole, right? In the first part of the year rises and rules Melchias, who is named Tammany and Zahe. All these days of his influence during which he rules are 91 days. And these are the signs of the days which are seen upon earth. In the days of his influence there is perspiration, heat, and trouble. All the trees become fruitful, the leaf of every tree comes forth, the corn is reaped, the rose and every species of flowers blossoms in the field, and the trees of winter are dried up. Okay, spring. Okay. So here's the twisting. He just so happens to be doing his part in the stars, making sure they go where they go. And what do people try to say? Well, he's causing this to be like this on earth. No. His job is to just keep things in order up here. But when will you see him? So what people are trying to do is relate what's happening on the earth with what has happened up here. But how do we know these are 2 things that are a little bit separated from each other? Well, the glory of one differs from the other. The terrestrial is one glory, and the celestial another. This one has its own thing going on, and that one has its own thing going on. But what do people do? This must be related. No. It's been lining up this way because that's how God made this. This is just the order He's going to have things happen. It's kind of like people trying to figure out the pattern of something, and then they figure it out incorrectly, and they think they see a pattern, but that's not really the pattern. It's actually something else that's happening. They try to figure it out on their own without gaining the real knowledge. You watch this with children as they begin to learn from very young, right? Was teaching Brendan to teach to 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 French fry. What? French fry? No. So what was that? That became a game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. French fry. It's an odd thing, but it was a different interpretation of what he understands. He's understanding this to be, so now he's telling me, no, you're wrong, because that's the game, that's the pattern that he was picking up. It's incorrect. It is not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is 1, 2, 3, 4 French fry. Because 5 sounded like French fry. No, you're wrong, Dad. French fry. Give me my French fry. Anyway. Alright, so in the first part of the year rises and rules Melchias, whose name I read this part already, sorry. Read all that.
Yes.
19. These are the names of the conductors who are under them. Barkel, Zelzabel, and another additional conductor of 1,000 is named Heloyelef. The days of those influence have been completed. The other conductor next after him is Halamelech, whose name they call the splendid Zahe. All the days of his light are 91 days. These are the signs of the days upon the earth, heat and drought, while the trees bring forth their fruits, warmed and concocted, and give them their fruits to dry. The flocks follow and yean, all the fruits of the earth are collected, with everything in the fields, and the vines are trodden. This takes place during the time of his influence. It's pretty clear, it's harvest. We're getting close to the end of the year, when he's around. These are the names of the orders and the names of the conductors who are under them, of those who are chiefs of 1,000, Yedeliel, Heel, and the name of the additional leader of the 1,000 is Asphael. The days of the influence have been completed. Interesting. This is just basically, here's the guys that are in charge during these certain times. You're going to see them up in the sky doing their thing. Okay. Why did he create the sun, the moon, and the stars? For signs and for seasons, to separate the day from the night. Signs and seasons. Right? You don't know. Some of the stuff that they're doing up there, the way that they shine, the light that they're given. There's a guy named Stephen Hogan. He's still around. If you ever get the chance to take a look at some of the thoughts and ideas that he has, there are scientific things that have been proven to help plant growth. Right? Number one is high-pitched chirping sounds. Birds chirp in the morning, wake the plants up. They've actually proven that each star has a sound. Also, we know this, that there was a canopy over the entire earth of ice before the flood. If that is there, you almost have this echo chamber happening with the sound of the stars, and it sounds like a symphony all over the earth. The plants were bigger than the animals were bigger than the amount of oxygen. They took all these attributes, and it also blocks out UV rays and only allows the good light to come in. Right? Why am I telling you all this? They reproduce all these conditions. You can actually reproduce all these things, but you got to have a very, very expensive special greenhouse. They did this in Japan. They played classical music in the greenhouse. They, up the barometric pressure inside the greenhouse. Obviously, it's got to be airtight. They had the gas levels of what we proposed they would probably be all the way back then. They blocked out that specific type of light, right? The UV, they blocked it out. Guess what happened? They took cherry tomatoes, planted cherry tomatoes in here. These cherry tomatoes became trees, not bushes, not plants. They became trees. They were so thick, so big. A cherry tomato, right? Like the size of my thumb, now became massive. Now think about when you read Deuteronomy and Numbers, and they were talking about, the grapes were as big as their heads and whatnot. And it's like, that's crazy. All I'm saying is there's conditions that can be replicated. All of that to say this, those stars are doing something, and they had form and function which had an effect on our earth. There's an influence. What are they doing right now? They are screaming out to all creation who the Creator is, His praise and glory. You cannot tell me that that does not affect creation. You bring God into any situation that affects creation. So if they're singing His glory all the time out there, imagine what happens when you magnify it. That's the point of the story. What is their influence? Their influence has always been meant to minister to each and every one of us. I know it sounded like Joe's getting way out there for a second, but when you boil it down, praise and worship and giving God His due, it actually says in our Bible that His presence inhabits our praise. That's biblical. I want to say that's in one of the Psalms. His presence inhabits our praise. So, I don't think Paul said it. I don't know. He could have, maybe. I don't recall where, but I want to say that's one of the Psalms. But all of that, we start to realize, okay, the stars are there for very, very specific reasons. All this creation, the way that He's got it, and He's laid it out. On top of, hey, we're going to give you all this information, Enoch. Give it to your entire family. But guess what? All this information has been hidden for how long? The interpretation of how God did these things and His explanation has been hidden for how long? So no doubt we've got resistance against all of it. So, Steve, if you'll close us out, sir.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this message tonight. We thank you for all your meticulous creation. We thank you for your blueprints, your